Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I make my armor, and the tools you're going to need starting out. This is for leather armor, and the first piece that we're going to actually work on today is going to be my chest piece. So let's get started. There's several things that you're going to need when you first start. You're going to need scissors, you're going to need duct tape, or scotch tape rather. This tape is actually 1.5 inches thick. You're going to definitely want at least 1.5 inches. If not, you're going to want 2 inches. The bigger you can get it, the better. And you're going to want to not skimp on this. I've actually bought two things of it because I recorded a video and I lost it because for some reason my camera wasn't working. So I'm kind of home cooking to this a little bit. I've already finished it. But you're going to want a thicker leather, and then this is what's left of that one roll that I did. This is a new one, so you can see you use a lot. The other thing that you're going to want to think about is you're going to want to have a marker. You're going to want to have saran wrap. This is a Sharpie, but you can use a marker. It depends on whatever you want to do. So yeah, just don't skimp on this, because if you get the cheaper stuff or if you get the smaller stuff, you're going to be making a lot more work for yourself. I think I spent like $5 on this, and I got two of them, so that was about, by the time I was done, I got a couple other things, it was about like 15 bucks, so it's not too bad. There are several things you're going to want to keep in mind though once you've put everything on your dress form. But first, let's get into actually how you do that. It looks like it's just tape on here, but it's actually not just tape. The first thing I've done, and you can do this on yourself too, but it really, really helps to do it on a dress form. If you have the money to get a dress form, I would really recommend it. This one has little dials on it, and it adjusts to my size. I love those kind. So when I gain or lose weight or whatever, I'm kind of a big girl. It helps to have that there. The only thing with that is that when you're putting it on your dress form, you really have to make sure that it's not too tight. So it's basically what's going to happen is when you put the tape around and when you put the saran wrap around, it's going to compress your form. Because the way that it works is it has a metal beam inside, and that metal beam adjusts, widens, and gets smaller depending on how you turn the dial. So these actual felt panels actually compress a little bit. So you're going to have to keep that in consideration when you're making your sizing. The one other thing that you have to keep in mind is when you wrap anything around your body, it's going to compress. So if you're doing this on yourself, you're going to need a friend, and you're going to need to be really careful that you don't put it too tight around your body, because it's not only going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to be a pain to get off. So that's the basics of, it's kind of a lot of information, but that's the basics of how I start things out. I generally put this stuff on first. This is just great value saran wrap. I don't really know. It's just the cheap stuff. Sorry, it's squeaky. So yeah, I put that on underneath. Make sure when you're putting your saran wrap on, make sure that you go all the way up to the top here, because it gives you much more space to draw on. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take our Sharpie and we're going to draw our form on it. It's going to squeak. Sorry. I need to put some WD-40 on that. So I made it pretty high up in the back. You don't have to go as high in the back. Again, it really just depends on what you're doing. So yeah, it just depends on what you're doing. The main thing too is these shoulders. So on this dress form, I have big knobs for shoulders on here. And you're not going to obviously want to cover that in leather, because you're going to have either pauldrons or whatever it is you're doing, you're going to have something covering your shoulders. And if not, that's okay too. But the problem is when you put leather over this, that's where your arm is, so it's not going to work. I have bigger arms, so I tend to take that into consideration, and I tend to make it a little bit lower down here. You're going to have to try. This is a trial and error process, so you're definitely going to have to try it. But I will say that the more effort you put in to making this undercoat of this stuff thicker, the thicker your pattern's going to be, and the more durable your pattern's going to be. I think on this one, I just went around it once. But what I'll do when I'm finished drawing my pattern and when I'm finished cutting them out, is I will actually put tape on the other side, and it'll actually solidify it a little bit better. And if you do it well, if you do it properly, and if you don't have a whole lot of wrinkles and whatnot, your patterns will last you a long time. The other thing is that, I know this is kind of the boring part, but it's very important, is that when you have tiny little pieces, you can do this two ways. You can either just wrap it around the whole form and get less of an accurate form, or you can take tiny little pieces and do like these sections right here down the side. I tend to find that that works better. The only thing with that is you really have to make sure that they're pushed down when you're finished, because if you don't, it's going to peel up. The other thing is that when you're putting all this on your dress form, you're really, really going to want to overlap, because if you don't overlap, I would say overlap by at least about ½ inch, because if you don't, the pieces are just going to come apart. It's just going to pull apart, especially if you're doing it on yourself and not on a dress form. So those are the main things. Now that I've got that out of the way, thickness of your leather. Depending on where you're located, what kind of a costume you're making, how historically accurate you want to be, determines the thickness of your leather. There's a couple different things to consider when you're trying to figure out what thickness of leather you're going to need. There's how close to your body is this going to be? Is it going to be big and bulky and just kind of out, or is it going to be really close to your body? Because if it's going to be really close to your body, you're going to want a thicker leather, because it's going to hold that shape better when it finally gets time to mold it. The only issue with this is you're going to overheat. That's just kind of how it works. So, for example, here in Texas, it gets super, super hot in the summertime. So I tend to sacrifice a little bit of historical accuracy and go with a little bit of a thinner leather. I go with about an 8 ounce. I think that's about 3 millimeters thick, roughly. It tends to be kind of a happy medium for me. If you're going with a thicker leather, you're going to want to be able to get out of your costume very quickly, because if you overheat or if something happens, and in fact, that happened to me last year. I was at a Renaissance festival. It was really hot. I overheated, and it took a long time for me to get my costume off because I didn't have any buckles or anything down the sides to get it off. So you got to think about that as well. Other thing, so for example, you've not only got to think about your shape, your body shape, but you have to think about what it's going to look like on. So for example, I'm a big girl. I have big boobs. If I'm doing a chest piece, I'm not going to want to do a huge sweetheart neckline, because if I do a huge sweetheart neckline, it's going to make my boobs look a lot bigger. So what I tend to do, and again, this is just kind of a rough, I'm not really sure what I'm doing actually. So I just kind of go as, I just kind of throw things together as I go. Some people don't like doing that, some people, I don't like committing. I think I'm going to go for about right here, because your clavicle bone's like right there, roughly. I think I'm going to go for right there. And again, this does not have to be a perfect cut, because worst case scenario, if you cut a little bit extra off than you want, you can just put some more tape over it. It's a really great material. I always go, this will probably come down a little bit more, but I always go a little bit thicker than, or a little bit higher up than what I'm intending. And the Sharpie's nearly dead. Again, this is a trial and error process. You're going to have to test this out on yourself and see what works best for you, because everybody's body is different. But I'm actually going to finish this, and then I will pick it up in another video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will pick it up, and I will let you guys know what I have done, and I'll make this a series, and by the end of the series, hopefully you'll have created some armor. I don't know what it'll be in particular. That's up to you. But anyway, thanks for watching.